Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first Industry Insider Creative Health and Wellness Coffee Chat. Um, Feel free to unmute and ask us anything. Type your question in the chat. Just to introduce myself, I'm McCarthy Mahoney. I'm a senior and I'm majoring in computational neuroscience with a minor in management consulting. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have. I did start off as pre-med and then I kind of veered into business. But the summer after my sophomore year, I interned at Barrow Neurological Institute as a student research intern in their innovation center, which was a super cool experience. And then last summer, I did healthcare consulting with a consulting firm called Protivity, and that's where I'll be returning full time starting in the fall after I graduate. So I'm here to answer any questions, just talk casually. But yeah, feel free to unmute yourself, come on camera if you'd like, or just type a question in the chat, and I'm here to provide any insight that I may have.
Hi, my name's Ian. So, what was the process of transferring from pre-med into business like?
Yeah, so I mean, it didn't really change my, sorry, the lighting is kind of off. And let me know if there's any connection issues. And I'll have to check if it's from my end. So just type in the chat if there's any issues along the way. But um, so it didn't really change my major much. I did come in as neuroscience, and then kind of after freshman year, as I was doing the things that you were meant to do to get into like medical school and stuff like that. I kind of realized that I was just going through the motions and I wasn't really enjoying that. Like I joined research labs and I um, was taking the classes like chem, bio, and I really didn't like chem, which is normal. Like a lot of pre-meds don't like chem, and that's totally fine. Um, because I decided that I didn't want to be pre-med, I switched to computational neuroscience, because I felt like that was a little broader and maybe introduced like the field of biotech to me. I also joined this club called Neurotech, which is geared toward a lot of comp neuro students, and that kind of just like broadened my view. Um, but the summer that I really made that switch was when I worked at Barrow in the lab, and then I decided that I really wanted to get into business, and so I practiced a lot of like consulting interviews and stuff like that, applied to a ton of places, and that's how I ended up doing consulting the following summer, and I'm happy to be here.
I also have a question for you. Hi. I'm wondering, with your experience in research and then now transitioning into consulting, like what is that like? And then does the consulting have anything to kind of like do with neuroscience and healthcare? And then what does consulting in that area look like?
Yeah, great question. Also, as you guys ask your questions, since this is just a coffee chat and we're all kind of networking, feel free to like introduce yourself. Let me know your year, your major, your background, your interests. Because also that's kind of the power of networking. Maybe there's other people on this call you'll end up wanting to connect with via LinkedIn or just email. But yeah, so actually, Yaya, if I'm saying your name correctly, Yaya.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should I introduce myself? I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I forgot
tell me
about
your
that.
major, tell me your year,
Of
and then
course.
answer your question.
Yeah, so my name is Yaya, and I was a psychology major at USC, and now I'm getting my master's for therapy also still at USC.
Cool.
And I also work at the Institute of Advanced Consciousness Study, which is a nonprofit and also just kind of like a startup vibe research lab that is associated with UCLA right now. And then we also do a lot of neurotech, which is super cool.
Okay, that's awesome. Sorry, I just turned my light off for better lighting. Okay, that's really cool. So, yeah, I totally understand where your question is coming from now, and um, I do find that because like I will be returning full time to the same job that I had last summer, I know that it is a little farther removed from healthcare than I'd like to be, because that's kind of how it goes when you enter the field of consulting or just various things in business as like a newcomer. Um, or just like a fresh grad, it's going to be pretty broad. Like you might be at like the bottom of the bottom rung, and you're just kind of like doing the work. But that's just how it goes. And I know that it's going to be a bit farther removed than I'd like to be, but that's a normal place to start. And so I would like to end up getting closer back to the science, like kind of work my way up the pyramid and narrow down, find my interests along the way. But last summer it was really cool for me because like my previous experiences had been more directly in science or in a lab. And then I got to experience that, but from like a zoomed out business angle. So I was working with insurance credentialing. I was going over physician incentive plans, like how physicians are paid and making sure that they're getting paid correctly. I learned all about these like rules and policies surrounding physician payments. And so it was cool doing that and learning about that after having been in the science or in the healthcare myself.
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about like, what is that consulting in the healthcare industry might look like, and then what is consisted of a consultant job, if you will.
Yeah. Um, Sorry about that. Can you repeat your question really quick? Sorry, I got a little messed up on my screen here.
Yeah, no worries. I was wondering if you can like kind of share a little bit more about what like a consultant, especially a consultant in the healthcare related industry look like, and then what do their job actually kind of consist of?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of different um, angles that a consulting firm could take to look at healthcare or life science. So, the firm that I was at and that I'll be at is just like a large general consulting firm, but I happen to be one of the few interns working in healthcare. But there are other firms that are much more like niche or smaller that are like more targeted directly at the healthcare. And so, a lot of consulting in the field of healthcare is due to the fact that there are so many like policies and regulations that a lot of like healthcare systems maybe don't have the expertise on or don't like have the time to have the expertise on. So they'll hire a consulting firm to kind of come in and look at these problems or solve those problems for them.
Thank you so much.
Mhm. Oakland, I see you have your hand raised. You can go ahead and ask a question.
Yes, hi. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was under my son's name. My name is Andrea Wynn, and
Oh,
I'm in the master's, Andrea. I'm in the master's of social work program in my
cool.
final year. I wanted to know if you can talk a little bit. I started my practicum, and so I wanted to know a little bit more about your internship journey. Did USC help you get that internship? Did you have to find it on your own? And if I'm not mistaken, was that the is that the job that you're going to once you graduate?
Yeah, so I've had two internships that were kind of like defining for my career path. The first one being at Barrow Neurological Institute. That one I found on my own. I am from Phoenix, and I know that Phoenix has this large neurological hospital system. It's called Barrow. And there's a ton of different labs, and so I was just looking at what opportunities can I get involved in research, and how can I live in Phoenix that summer just for like ease purposes. And so I did that and I found that they had an internship program. And the way that I ended up getting that though, because it's really hard nowadays to just drop your resume somewhere and expect to hear back, because like the job market is just tough right now, and it really helps to have connections. So I went on LinkedIn, I looked up just Barrow Neurological Institute. I saw that one of my connections that I already had, someone had worked there, so I reached out to them, and I asked if they could make an introduction to me, an introduction to someone in the lab for me, and they did that. And then I ended up it because I had applied months before and I hadn't heard back. So that's when I did this. And it's really good that I did because that's when I finally got connected with someone in the lab. They interviewed me right away and then I ended up getting that job. And so that kind of shows like taking the personal initiative to reach out because like it's hard for most likely a recruiter, someone is not going to think about you unless you take the initiative or the extra step to like be seen. And then the following summer when I was at the consulting firm, which is where I'll be returning to, um, that job I had just kind of like I had heard about that company through my research doing consultant, like through my research of different consulting firms when I knew that's what I wanted to do. And then I ended up applying to that position through like Handshake or LinkedIn. And then I actually went to the USC Career Fair and I met the recruiter at the career fair here at USC, and we hit it off. Like he was great, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, I'll let my team know that you applied. I'll tell them that you were great, and we'll see what we can do." And then I ended up getting an interview and getting that position. So I do think that USC definitely has the power to help you in your internship search, but it takes a lot of personal initiative.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. You answered so many of my questions.
Awesome. Okay. Great. Thank you for participating.
Hi, hi. My name is Olivia. I'm a freshman and I major in cognitive science. I have a question about like for students with a neuroscience background who are curious about consulting or healthcare strategy. What would you recommend doing early?
Would you mind repeating your question? Um, I don't know
Okay.
that I understood.
Yeah, like for students with a neuroscience background who are very curious about consulting or healthcare strategy, what would you recommend doing early during their like first year or second year?
Yeah. So I think the absolute most important thing you can do is networking, and just talking to as many people as possible. So the USC network is so strong for that. And there are so many people you can reach out to just via LinkedIn or the Trojan Network. USC Career Center has a lot of different resources for that. And the way that I got to where I was is simply by like making all these connections and finding people who are in positions that I want to be in and just talking to them and seeing how they got to be where they are, because those are the types of conversations that lead to something like a referral down the line.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing. That's really helpful.
Another question, McCarthy, what from Andrea, what made you want to get into exactly what you're doing now with giving back and hosting workshops like this? And then how did you get the opportunity to do this for us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love doing this type of thing, honestly. I started doing this my freshman and sophomore year. I took this class in Marshall before I even had a minor there, and it was called um, Preparing for and Exploring Future Careers in Business. And in that class, the teacher brought in a bunch of different alumni every single week from different like fields or sectors in business. And that was the class that finally made business like make sense to me, whereas it was previously just kind of this like disconnected, ambiguous black box that I knew nothing about, honestly, just coming from a neuroscience background, because Dornsife doesn't necessarily like give you that like view of business or all the options that are out there maybe. So this class was really pivotal for me, and they really harped on the power of networking and cold outreach like via LinkedIn or just cold calling, cold emailing. And I really got to see the power of that and how that has influenced my own trajectory. And then this job was new. Job that I'm doing now, it's the Industry Insider Initiative at the Career Center. And I actually just interviewed my junior year for the job, and then I got it, but it was new. So my boss, Lauren, she kind of had this idea and started this initiative. Um, and me and a couple other students were the first ones that um, like did it, and we were all like segmented into various to cover various sectors of like careers that one might be interested in.
Awesome. Do you feel that cold emails is still a good way? I didn't know how to really phrase the sentence of even seeking employment.
Absolutely, yes. I think that it can be a lot more powerful than just the general application that you'll find on LinkedIn or Handshake. Because I think it's possible to write a very strong email that can just catch someone's eye, but you don't want to like overdo it. Nobody who is like a professional in their career is going to take the time to like read this long email from someone that they don't know. But if you keep it really short and succinct, then I think there can be a lot of value in that. And especially within the Trojan Network, because like I love doing this because there were so many people who helped me when I was in the position of like feeling lost and searching for a job or an internship. And so many like fellow Trojans want to give back and want to help anyone out. So yeah.
Awesome. Amazing again. Thanks for helping.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm wondering, you mentioned a lot about like Trojan Network, and I'm wondering, like, say when you're looking for a position or a firm, like how do you identify people in those areas to reach out to who are not just, general people, but are people in the Trojan Network? How do you narrow that down?
Yeah, so I use LinkedIn, that's my preference, but um, the USC Career Center also has this like resource called the Trojan Network, and it allows you to like use a bunch of filters to find the exact type of person you're looking for. Like you can filter by when they graduated, what was their major, what industry or company are they working at now, and then you can reach out to them through the Trojan Network platform, and then they'll receive an email that says someone is trying to reach you through the Trojan Network and they can go on there and look. But I like using LinkedIn because you can also kind of apply some filters. And what I always do, and what I did a lot, primarily my sophomore year, is I would hear about or look into these like companies that I was interested in. So let's use Amgen, for example. So looking at the company Amgen, I'm like, maybe that's where I want to work. So let's see if there's any USC alum, or even current USC students that did an internship there or currently working there that I could reach out to just ask about how they got there. So on LinkedIn, I would look up USC plus Amgen, like in quotes. It kind of does, I think it understands how you're trying to like filter or something. Um, so then it would give me like a list of people who either maybe are already in my network or like a couple connections away, that went to USC or go to USC and work at Amgen. So then through that, I would connect with them on LinkedIn. Then I would send them a short message saying, "Hi, I'm McCarthy. I'm a senior at USC and I'm interested in um, Amgen and your career trajectory. Um, would you have 15 minutes for a quick chat in the coming week?" So something very brief like that. You don't want to give the whole spiel just yet. You just want to see if you can connect with them over the phone, over Zoom, for a quick chat, and that's where you'll get the most information. And then at the end of those calls, you always want to ask, like, is there anyone else that you think would be beneficial for me to connect with? And then that's how like the ball gets rolling.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Hi. So also another question. I love that you're hosting this coffee chat for everyone. I'm wondering, like, how did you start hosting this coffee chat for the Career Center? And then, like, how do you enjoy doing it?
Yeah, going back to kind of Andrea's question about how I got involved in this job, it was just the new initiative at the Career Center. And so there's industry insiders for multiple different sectors, and I just happen to cover the creative health and wellness because that most strongly aligns with my background. But I absolutely love doing it. I love talking to you all and getting questions. So, um, yeah. And I have more of these throughout the semester. I have like one or two a month, which you can also find on Handshake, same way you found this. And then we also do more panels and workshops with the other industry insiders who cover different sectors as well.
Hi, this is Ian from the start again. I feel like I should make an introduction.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, Current freshman, I'm doing human bio. I'm on the pre-med track.
Nice
So
to
as a
meet you.
person who's, oh yeah, as a person who's pretty introverted, while I understand the significance of networking, it's something that I don't feel super comfortable doing.
Mhm.
When comparing your two backgrounds, pre-med and or roughly business,
Mhm.
what was like the relative significance of networking or importance?
Yeah, so I definitely acknowledge that the whole networking component is much more, I guess, I think it's important across every sector, but it's more important for like the career path you're trying to go down in business. Um, so with med school or with being pre-med, I think the path is maybe a little more defined. You're kind of like following a recipe per se. You know that you need to be taking all these classes, all these requirements. You need to be getting your research in, your volunteer hours in, your shadowing. Um, and then like you need to eventually take the MCAT. So I would say that that is a little more formulaic. But in either sector, it's totally fine if you're an introvert. And there are a lot of ways to still just put yourself out there and network, even being an introvert. Also, if you do cold like email outreach, if you feel more comfortable, you can just ask for a phone call rather than like a Zoom. And that could be much more comfortable for you. And you could just go into this call with like just a short introduction of yourself, like you just gave me. And yeah, you just gave me the perfect introduction that I would do on any cold call, if you have one. And then come with like a list of questions catered to the person's background that you're interested in talking to. And so, as I've described, that's how I would do it for like trying to network within business. But then within pre-med, I think it could be super helpful to just talk to um, pre-med students who are maybe juniors or seniors, if you're a freshman, or current medical students or residents, and just asking them to talk about their experience and how they got there most effectively.
Thank you. And then kind of as a follow-up, I feel that there's a lot of information available online, but what are like the specific benefits that you can gain from talking to a person rather than referring to, say, online forums?
Um, I think that again, this is different for maybe pre-med versus business, but the way that it's helped the most, I think, and actually I think it's still beneficial for pre-med because regardless, you're going to need to get kind of like jobs and experience along the way. So whether that's in labs, or just internships in the summer, or like jobs in a gap year, talking to people and making those connections like well in advance and fostering those connections is really going to prove most beneficial when you are looking for that job because like I've had many instances where I just coffee chatted or cold reached out to someone out of curiosity and had a chat with them. But then later because we formed a good connection, I was able to later leverage that and ask them for a referral in a way that didn't feel too like transactional because we had already connected and formed like a good rapport. So I think it can be super, super helpful down the line. And it's something you kind of recognize in hindsight. So right now it can feel a little uncomfortable and totally normal to feel resistance in doing so because like it is nerve-wracking just getting on the phone with someone you have never met. But I promise you it will very much pay off later.
All right, thank you.
How do you ask for someone for referral? Like by referral, do you mean like having them listed as a referral or like having them like refer you to something that could help you out with like another contact.
Yeah, so let's see. An example is like how I mentioned that I when I was getting that internship at Barrow, I had just like done the normal application, but I hadn't heard back in months. And then finally, when I went on to LinkedIn and tried to find people in my network that maybe had worked there or had some sort of affiliation at Barrow, that's when I was able to reach out to them. I chatted with them. I just cold reached out to them. I chatted with them, asked them about their experience. And I was like, just, I guess, vulnerable in the conversation. I was like, I really want this job. I think it would be a very beneficial experience to me. Is there any way you could introduce me to someone who works in um, one of the labs, or even like, could you refer me to your recruiter or however you got the job? And sometimes that's much more casual, like them reaching out to their lab manager that they had, or maybe there's like a actual direct more formal referral process, like on the application website or something. So, yeah.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Here's Olivia. Compare with the research, like what feels hardest about consulting at the beginning for you?
Sorry, just realized that I was on mute. I said, would you mind asking the question again, Olivia? I had a little trouble hearing that.
Yes, for sure. Like compare with the research in the neuroscience, like what feels hardest about the consulting at the beginning?
Did you say what's the hardest about consulting at the beginning?
Yeah, yes.
Um, I would say actually that any I would say it's comparable because I truly believe that no matter what classes you're taking, you pretty much learn everything on the job. So even though I am coming from a background in computational neuroscience, and you could say the experience working at Barrow Neurological Institute is much more in alignment with my major than consulting, I think that both challenges were equally difficult because, like, in the classroom, you're kind of learning more theory or like theoretical knowledge. And once it actually comes time to apply it, it is difficult, no matter what, I think. But that is how you learn best, is just by putting yourself into those new situations.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Hey, Ian again. So when you mentioned your network, what exactly is that composed of?
Um, I guess your network can be kind of like interchangeable and evolving always. So there are definitely people in my network that I've leaned on more at certain times. So, for example, when I was working on getting a job in consulting, I leaned on a lot of the people that I had talked to along the way at like all these different companies that I was applying to. And I asked them like, what's the application process like, or what's the interview process like? And I got some insight on like what type of questions I would be asked or how to best prepare for those interviews. And it was just easier doing so because I had already formed those connections. But like now I use the word evolving for my network because now I don't really need to reach out to those people because I'm not looking for a job right now and I am like happy with the company that I'm in. Um, But maybe in the future, if I'm like looking to switch jobs or something, then it would be great for me to leverage those again. Um, and then like your network could also be people like your professors that you've connected with, or just other bosses you've had, or coworkers, or even peers in your classroom. Like I consider my network to be like connections that I make in the classroom where I have an interesting conversation and I learn about this new career trajectory or club or just involvement or job that I might be interested in. And then I just like dig from there. I ask them a bunch of questions, see who I can get connected with from there. But your network doesn't have to be like a tangible thing. I guess it's more of just the idea of constantly seeking out new connections.
So I get the feeling that this is a pretty networking focused meeting, but are there any like outside of networking, any tips you could give, say a freshman, a sophomore?
Tips in terms of what, like the job search or like clubs, what kind of advice, I guess.
I didn't really have anything in mind, but yeah, clubs. Like, what do you think is valuable that you can derive from clubs?
Yeah, I think making connections in clubs can be really great. Like getting leadership positions on your resume, and just exploring your interests. Like USC has so many clubs and areas of involvement. You could get involved in a club that's just for fun, like totally outside your comfort zone or your field of study. Like my freshman and sophomore year, I was part of the SC Outfitters Club, which is like the hiking club, and I went on some really cool hikes through them. That's not gonna like benefit me career wise, maybe. Well, maybe it will if I meet like people on there that end up being great connections to have. But that's just for fun. And then the other like club that I was in was Neurotech, which we got to hear some really cool speakers each week who came from the field of neurotechnology or biotechnology, and I learned a lot through that. And then I was part of a project. I worked on a project team where we went and presented at the UC Davis California Neurotechnology Conference, and that's a great thing to have on my resume as well, and talked about in interviews. So, yeah, just not being afraid to try anything and everything new because your path is definitely not defined as a freshman. And USC has so many great opportunities that you should definitely take advantage of.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Karima. I'm a grad student right now. I just wanted to follow up on a previous question that was asked. I think you spoke about how, like you are not looking for a job right now, but you still have that network. So that's what I wanted to understand. Like, how do you sort of maintain touch with these people so that you avoid making like any referral or anything seem less transactional? Like, how do you just maintain touch professionally?
I see. That's a great question actually, because I guess right now I'm probably not doing a great job of keeping up the effort or of keeping in consistent contact with people that used to be in my network or are in my network. But I mean, one way to do that is through like LinkedIn, keeping up with people's like LinkedIn posts or just reaching out every so often, being like, um, uh, or that's a good question because I guess like it's hard to maybe find a reason. For example, for me, like a company, let's use Amgen again for an example. Like I that was a place I was previously interested in working at, and so I made a couple connections through that. It would be maybe difficult for me to like have a reason right now to be reaching out to those people or like chatting with them one on one. But a way that I could do that is maybe like they posted something on LinkedIn about like a project that they did maybe I'd want to like then chat with them about it. I could reach out to them through LinkedIn and be like, hey, this is super interesting to me. I'd love to hear more about it. So that's an example. But it's okay if like connections come and go. Um, and you're kind of like leveraging the ones you need right now more. Like I don't really need those ones right now. But I would definitely like reach out again if I did. Um, so yeah, and having just that one initial connection early on does make it a lot easier to later on ask for a referral if you do need it.
Got it. And do people say no to these, like to such requests often, or do they like sort of just always give you the help that you're looking for? And if they say no, like how do you go about that?
Yeah. It's important to not be afraid of that because that's totally normal. It's totally normal for people not to respond at all either. Like most of the time, these are busy, full-time career professionals. So do not take it personally if they don't respond. Likely they just don't have the time. But like a lot of times for like every 10 cold outreach messages you send, you'll maybe get one response. Um, and that's totally normal. But um, wait, going back to your actual question. Oh, yeah, and then if they say no, likely that's due to like a company policy maybe or something like that. And then you just say, no worries at all. I really appreciate your consideration. And I look forward to staying in touch. Just like a nice, polite message. It's
Yeah,
never going to be personal. That's just how it goes sometimes.
got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I have another question. Um, Sorry, I muted myself. So we spoke a lot about like the neuroscience field and the consultancy field as well. But I
Mhm.
wanted to know a little bit more about the creative realm of things. Like how does that work? Because like previously it was very like at least the creative industry from where I'm from is very like sort of like everyone knows everyone, and in order to get the best jobs or anything that you're looking for, you need to know the right people. Is it the same when it comes to the States, or is it like how does that work?
I think that definitely translates across every place and industry. It is just always helpful to have connections, which can be forged through what I've been discussing on this call. Um, but then regarding your question about the creative field, in order to like better understand what you are asking about it, do you want to tell me a little bit about your like background and why you might be interested in the creative field or like what particular sector of it?
Yes. So I studied digital culture and politics in my undergrad, and now I'm studying digital social media. And before grad school, I was working as a creative strategist, and now I'm in the process of building my own like media-led venture studio, kind of. So for that, I'm interested in just like finding like-minded individuals who like let's just say fellow creative strategists and new projects.
Yeah. No, that's very cool. And congrats on being at this point. That's very impressive. Um, so for that, I guess I'm like not as familiar with the media industry like your startup might be in, if I'm correct. Um, but I think that a lot of those questions could be answered by, of course, like USC has a huge like grip on the media industry and like so many connections through that. And so there are a lot of people that you could get a hold of that could maybe help you further this startup of yours or further this venture. Uh, and so yeah, of course, the creative set like field embodies a huge amount of things. Like it could be media, singing, like media, film, like journalism, uh, dance. So I think talking to the right people along the way can be super helpful. Um, but and then again, just with how like the job market is right now, I do think that yeah, just literally talking to the right people is going to be most effective in getting to be where you want to be.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Hi, here's Olivia. Um, and I have a question about the student research. Um, what made a student researcher really stand out in your lab or team? Like, I think it's can difficult for me to like as a student researcher to stand out or have some connection with the PI or something.
Mm, yeah, that can be tough depending on like what your role is and how many people are in your lab. If there's a ton of like student research interns working in your lab, that can be difficult to stand out. Um, all of my research experiences that I had, like I worked in a lab at USC and I was the only student research in there, so it was easier to connect with the PI. And then in my work at Barrow, there was a ton of different labs, but in my lab, I was only one of two student research interns. So again, it was easier to like have a mentor through that, but I can totally imagine that that's much more difficult to find if there's like a bunch of students in your lab, but if you are one of like just a couple, then just having conversations with them, asking questions, and just letting them know your interests and stuff, is the best way to be noticed or stand out.
Yeah, thank you. And one follow-up question about like how you balance your time when you're still in a job, like in a lab and finding a job. Right now, I'm in a lab to be a like research student. I think it's actually hard to balance my time to find my internship and working in a lab.
Yeah, are you can you tell me about your background? Are you in undergrad right now or master's program?
Yeah, yeah, I'm a freshman and majoring in cognitive science.
Right. Okay. Sorry, you did mention that. So you're a freshman majoring in cog sci, and you're currently working in a lab and have an internship. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, that's very difficult to manage, I would say. I definitely had like the hardest time my freshman year with time management because it's just such a transition. But and it's just so exciting freshman year. You want to try everything and be part of everything, and you're totally doing the exact right thing. Um, like I think that's absolutely what you should be doing is like just dipping your toes in everything. Um, and as you get along, as you get a little further along though, don't be afraid to like um kind of put yourself first and refine those. Like at a certain point it becomes like what do I want to be doing and what am I most like passionate about amongst my involvements that I can kind of like narrow in on rather than like, oh, I should be doing this. Like right now you might be thinking like I'm a freshman, um I'm new, I should be getting involved in research, I should be getting involved in these clubs, have an internship,
Yeah.
which is totally fine and true. Um, but I think that your passions and your interests are going to take you farther. So like um you'll just naturally be more inclined to like be more involved and like excited to be part of the things that you're actually interested in. So if like there are parts of your lab or your internship right now that you're not loving, then maybe revisit that as you go into your sophomore year. Think about like what would be most beneficial for me to put my time towards right now. And if that means only one of those, then pick one and don't do both.
Yeah, you're right. I think just because actually I'm loving doing this kind of work in a job, like in a lab, but actually I don't want to work as a researcher in the future.
Mhm.
So it's really hard to decide to do what right now.
Yeah, and that is what shows you that you're absolutely doing the right thing because you wouldn't know that if you hadn't tried this. So that's the benefit of like putting yourself in these new experiences and even overloading your schedule at first because you don't know what you like or what you don't like until you just have these experiences. So know experience or involvement is a mistake or a regret, because it shows you, it kind of like just slowly narrows your focus along the way. So I did not enjoy my, like when I was involved in a lab at USC, I honestly really didn't enjoy it. But I am so grateful for that experience because that helped me refine where I do want to be. Um, so I think you're in the right place right now and you're a freshman and you're doing all the right things. So don't put too much pressure on yourself to like figure it all out now. Just know that you're in the right place.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Hi, I had a question.
Hi, yeah, go ahead.
So, I'm a freshman right now, and I was thinking of doing something in the summer, but I'm an international student. So, what would you recommend? Because a lot of the things, like I don't think I can do because of like visa restrictions.
hmm Um, I think that is something that USC could absolutely help you with. I think there are various programs that are intentionally like help out international students in that way. Um, and I don't know all of those off the top of my head, but I think if you go on Handshake or if you just go to the Career Center and ask that question, there are definitely a lot of students wondering the same thing. As USC does have a huge international student population. But there are programs and opportunities that are that you totally can take advantage of. So I'm sorry that I don't know the exact any of that off the top of my head, but there are absolutely resources through USC that you can find.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, this is a pretty broad question, but if you had one regret, what would it be?
Um, hmm. I don't really like to I don't regarding like academics and like career experiences thus far, I would truly say none because I even with like various mistakes I've made maybe academically or like work-wise, all of them have led me to where I am now. Like the even the experiences that you have that you really don't like the job experiences or the classes you take that you are like super uninterested or don't like, all of those show you um like it's important to find out in college what you like and don't like. So sometimes it takes working really hard to get a job that you end up kind of despising to understand stuff about your own interests and passions. So I don't have any regrets about like my education or time at USC thus far. And I did um, study abroad last year, which was a big like decision for me. I was going very much back and forth between whether that would like uh, be good for my time at USC and be a beneficial thing. And in the moment, like there were times when I was going back and forth, like while I was there in London. Um, it was just like a frightening thing, such a new thing, such a new transition. But ultimately, looking back, I'm so glad I had that experience and I would not trade it for anything, even if it meant taking much less units than I would be at USC. It was very important for my um, like trajectory.
So I kind of get that one really shouldn't regret what they've done, but was there anything that you didn't do that you kind of wish you did?
Um, hmm. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but um, yeah, I don't really know. I guess like my biggest advice to people is just like as I've harped on here is just like um just talking to as many people as you can early on, um, and really, really leveraging the USC network because while it does always exist, you're only here for 4 years, and this is really the best time to use it. So maybe I would say like starting a little earlier on, but no, I can't really think of something I wish I had done. But if I do think of that, I will get back to you.
Hey, well, thank you. I know it's a pretty hard
No,
to
that's
answer
okay. I
question.
appreciate you asking and participating. That is a great question.
Another question. Here's Olivia. And one thing I have thinking about is the cognitive science feels really intellectually interesting, but not very like directly career oriented. So from your perspective, how should students think about whether to stay in a broader majors versus like switching to something more tightly aligned with specific career paths?
Mm. Yeah, I definitely like went through this mental struggle a lot freshman year of like, am I majoring in the right thing? There are so many majors available, so many minors available. What should I do? What's the right thing?
Yeah.
Um, it's quite daunting because of how many things you could be in. So, what I can say now as a senior is that it's really just about how you apply yourself. You could truly be in any major, and I think you could truly break into any industry. Um, it's about like how you apply yourself, the conversations you have, the people you seek out, the experiences you seek out. Um, because like I'm going into a field that is not aligned with computational neuroscience, but I don't regret that at all. Um, I think that like you just are going to learn on the job no matter what. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that honestly, but it's also perfectly normal to switch your major if you do feel like um something is more aligned with the path you want to go down. But um it's also very difficult to like if you just started college and you're like 19, 20, it's hard to know like what you want to do. And it's a lot of pressure to put on yourself to like make the right choice. And I don't think there is a right choice. I think that you're going to figure it out along the way, and be confident in the fact that your experience at USC is comprised of a lot more than just your major.
Thank you. It's a tricky question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And the session ends at 5, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up in a couple minutes. So if anyone has one last minute question I can answer, I'm happy to. But otherwise, know that you can reach out to me at any time. This is my email right here on the left. And then I have multiple coffee chats like this throughout the semester. And we have a lot of panels and workshops about getting jobs, networking, internships. Um, all of that throughout the semester. You can find that on Handshake. But this was a wonderful session. You guys all were great in participating and asking questions. So I really appreciate your involvement. And you guys are all doing the exact right thing by being here and just asking questions, talking to people. So I applaud you all.
Thank you for sharing today.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye. Have a good day, everyone.